Hi everyone, it's Gina K, and I'm so excited to share with you the brand new Sentimental Summer StampTV kit. This kit is filled with beautiful stamps, papers, cardstock, and dies that will help you make beautiful cards throughout the summer and beyond. Let me show you all of the components of this new kit. First, like all of our kits, this kit comes with a convenient storage box. Now this storage box is big enough to hold 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and it will help you contain all of the components of the kit so that you can stamp along with me for weeks to come. I also want to show you the beautiful color palette of this kit. You're going to get 24 sheets of cardstock, 3 sheets of our Passionate Pink, 3 sheets of our beautiful Turquoise Sea, 3 sheets of Jelly Bean Green, 3 sheets of our Layering White, 3 sheets of our Black Onyx, 3 sheets of our Heavy Base Weight White, 3 sheets of our Wild Dandelion, and 3 sheets of our Sweet Mango. This kit also has a brand new 6x6 pattern paper pack called Petite Patterns. I like to keep the top sheet because I can use the frame and I can also use the borders in projects. Inside this pack are some adorable patterns. You're going to get 3 sheets of this cute little Swiss dot pattern. You're also going to get 3 sheets of this check pattern. I really like this one. This is a stripe pattern on a diagonal. You're also going to get 3 sheets of this pretty vine. You're going to get 3 of this pattern, and it looks like rays of sun to me. And then you're going to get 3 sheets of this pinwheel pattern. That's a fun one. You're going to get 3 sheets of this vine. It almost looks like a wonky chevron. And 3 sheets of this handwritten script. Also in this kit, you're going to get 2 6x8 stamp sets. The first stamp set is the Dazzling Dahlia stamp set, and you can see that there is a solid and a line art image in all 3 of the flowers and also in all 3 sets of leaves. This way you can do 2-step stamping, or you can color them, or you can stamp them in solid colors. So lots of options with this one. The second set is a really cute one called Your Own Kind of Beautiful. And this has 5 big images that you can color in along with greetings that coordinate with them. For example, this little frog with the crown has a greeting that says, "Love who you're becoming." And then the bike with the happiness is not the destination but the journey. The sun and never let anyone dull your shine. These fun succulents with be your own kind of beautiful. And then I just loved this beautiful basket of flowers, and I also love the greeting, "Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn." So you can put those together or you can mix and match them. Along with these 2 huge 6x8 stamp sets, you also get a set of 13 dies. Now these dies are huge, and there's some fun things about the flower set here. You have dies for the large flower, the medium flower, and the small flower, and also all of the leaves. But they're able to cut out both the solid and the line art images. Then for this set, you get all 5 of these images that you can cut out as well. So that is a huge die set, and it comes on a magnet ready to store. I'm going to show you a project using the Dazzling Dahlia stamp set. And I'm going to use the line art flowers and the line art leaves for this project. I've already set these up on my MISTI, and I have a piece of layering weight white cardstock ready to go. So I'm going to grab a Memento Tuxedo black ink pad, and I'm going to ink these stamps up real well. When you first get new stamps, sometimes you have to ink them up and stamp them a couple of times on some scrap paper before they seem to take the ink real well. And that is because of the manufacturing process. Sometimes there's a little residue left on top, and by inking them a few times and just stamping them off on some scrap paper, you will be able to get a really good impression. I didn't get a great impression on that leaf because this flower was touching it a little bit and it prevented it from making contact with the paper. So by taking that flower off and re-stamping it, that solved my problem. When I'm stamping images that I'm going to cut with dies, sometimes I will stamp a few extras just in case I have a mishap. I don't want to have to start the whole process over again. The flowers are pretty big, but the leaves are a little small, so I'm going to stamp a few extras just so I have them in case I need them. So what I've done is I've put another piece of layering weight cardstock, the white cardstock, into my MISTI, and I inked up those leaves again with some Memento Tuxedo black. And as you can see, I didn't get good coverage with my ink on that bottom one, so I'm going to stamp it one more time. This is one of the reasons why I love the MISTI, because it takes care of all those little mistakes. Now, rather than taking the stamps off and repositioning them, I just turned the cardstock upside down, and I'm going to stamp them another time to make sure that those leaves don't touch the other leaves when I stamp them. And now I have a whole bunch of leaves ready to color and ready to put into my project. For the last batch of leaves, I just shifted my cardstock over and secured it with some magnets so that I could stamp into the empty space on the piece of cardstock rather than removing the stamps from the MISTI. So that makes it very convenient. Now it's time to color, and I'm going to use two Prismacolor pencils. I'm using Aquamarine and Prussian Green. Here I have a file, and this was part of the Inky Antics Gamsol kit. Now I'm going to use this file to file any residue off of my blending stump, and also by turning the blending stump as I'm filing, it keeps it nice and sharp. I'm also going to use some Gamsol, and I've just put this into one of the little Tim Holtz storage jars. I'm also going to use my iOrbit pencil sharpener. I love this pencil sharpener. Ever since I got it, I haven't had any breakage, and it's very convenient, very easy to use. So now I'm going to begin coloring. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some of the Aquamarine pencil just at the bottom of each of the petals where they would be attached to the flower. Just along the edge there. And I'm laying down a decent amount of color. You want to make sure that you have enough color so that when you start to use the Gamsol, that there's color that can spread without making it too light at the bottom. So I'm a little bit heavy-handed as I lay that color down. And you can see I'm going to do each little individual petal, even the smallest ones. I'm just going to touch a little bit of colored pencil at the bottom of each petal. I never know how much coloring to show because some people love to watch the entire coloring process, and other people feel like if they've seen a little bit of it, they get the idea and they want to move on. So this might be a little longer for some of you, but it might still be a little short for some of you. I tried to find a happy medium for this video. So I finished coloring all the flowers, and now I'm going to lay down some of that Prussian green. And again, I'm going to just put it along the edges. For the bigger leaves, I'm going to go around both sides of the edges. And I'm going to put it down near the bottom as well of each leaf where it would attach to the flower. I have a lot of leaves here to color, so I'm going to color them all the same way. And I'm just going to do 9 of them because that's all I need, but I have those extra ones stamped for an emergency. Now it's time to use the Gamsol. I like to put it in these little jars because I can carry them around with me. I'm going to dip that blending stump in, and you can see just about how far that Gamsol is coming up. I'm going to add a little bit more. I want to make sure that the blending stump is nice and saturated. And then I'm going to go right over the color, and I'm going to just do short strokes and work that color up to the edge. And you can see as the color is getting closer to the edge of the petal, it's getting lighter and lighter. So I'm going to do a few more of these petals so you can see how they look. And again, nice short strokes and then just bringing it to the edge. And don't worry if there's a little bit of white showing or if it looks really, really light. You can always go back and add more color. It's a little bit more difficult to take the color off. So I'm going to keep going. With these smaller petals, I might use a little circular motion like this. And if there's any parts that don't look well blended, I'm going to go back and blend again. You can always go back and add a little bit of pencil too if the color is just getting too light. That means you didn't lay enough down to begin with, and you might need a little bit more to create some depth as the color, you want that color to look darker the closer it is to the center of the flower. Now, if you'll know when to add more Gamsol to your blending stump, because there is definitely a squeaky sound and a squeaky feeling that happens when it starts to get dry. So if you start to experience that, add a little more Gamsol to your blending stump. And you can see here I'm adding a little bit more color because I felt like it was just a little bit too light in these areas, and then I'm blending that color back out. So now I'm going to move on to the next flower, and I'm going to continue to color all of the flowers until all of them are colored. And you can see that Gamsol starting to travel up the blending stump a little bit. I like to keep a couple of extra blending stumps. In case it gets too high, I'll just let it sit and dry, and I'll use a new one so it doesn't get too close to my fingers. And I'm continuing to blend this color until all of the flowers are blended and beautiful. So here's the last little bit on this flower, and then these flowers are done. So you can see there's lots of lights and darks, and it does look like there may be more than one color used, but with the Gamsol you can get that effect just using one color. Now it's time to use the green. So I've grabbed a new blending stump, so I'm starting from scratch. Now what's really fun about this green, this Prussian green, as you start to blend it, the color gets really yellow as it gets lighter. You can really see what the base color is in the pencil when you start to blend it. You can start to see those other colors come out. And some of them look a little more blue, some of them look a little more yellow, and it's really fun to see what they blend out to. So I'm going to finish coloring all of these leaves. I had 9 of them to color, and I'm just finishing up with the shading using the Gamsol and the blending stump. Now that they're all shaded, I'm ready to add my greeting to a blank piece of cardstock. I have a piece of cardstock that's cut 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. This is also layering weight cardstock. And I'm positioning my greeting. I'm using the Hello My Friend greeting. Once I get it positioned, I just pick it up with the MISTI lid and make sure my cardstock is back into the right position. Then I'm going to grab a little bit of the Memento ink and ink up that greeting. And once that's inked up, I can press the greeting down, and then I can continue on with my card. My next step is going to be to cut out all of these flowers and leaves. And you can see how nicely the dies line up. You can see the actual black line around that flower, so you know you've got the flower centered. And then you can see how easily they fall out of the dies. The dies are nice and sharp and they cut beautifully. So I've cut the larger flower. Now if you have trouble lining up your flowers, once you finally get it lined up, you can always add just a little black Sharpie dot at the top of the die so you know which end is up. This one was a little more difficult for me to figure out, but I added a Sharpie dot after I was done, and now that will always be easy because I'll always know where the top of the flower is. And you can see that one cut out beautifully as well. And I'm going to cut this last one out. This last one is very detailed. It really gets in and around those petals, and I really like this die. What's really fun about these dies is you're able to cut out the solid ones, you're able to cut out the line art ones, and you're able to cut them out together if you do the two-step stamping, all with one set of dies. So these dies are definitely doing double duty. Now that I have my flowers cut out, I'm going to cut out my leaves. And you can see I didn't leave much room there for this leaf, but the die is cut really close to the image, so there wasn't any problem. And if you can actually cut more than one image out at a time. If you find that they're not straight, just add a little piece of washi tape or blue painter's tape, and that will help you keep them lined up if you don't have some kind of magnetic platform to keep the dies in place. Now here are all my finished flowers and leaves ready to go onto my card. They look so pretty. Now my next step is to add some texture to this piece of cardstock. I have to show you something that I discovered. I'm probably the only person in the world that didn't already know this, but if you didn't, you'll be as surprised as me. See this slit up here in the top of this 5x7 Cuttlebug folder? That is made so that you can do partial embossing very easily. You can just slip that piece of cardstock in there and it lines up beautifully without too much struggle at all. I never knew that that was there, and I'm so excited, and now I just want to get as many Cuttlebug folders as I can in the 5x7 size because of that convenient slot at the top. And look how pretty this looks when it's partially embossed. So here are all the components for my card, and it's time to assemble. But before I do that, I want to add a little score line down along that dotted line to finish it off. So just butt up that dotted line against one of the score lines on the Scor-buddy or scor-pal, or whatever scoring device you use, and add a line to finish it off. Now I'm also going to score my card base. This card base is cut 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, so I'm scoring it at 4 1/4, and then I'm going to use just the side of my scoring tool to flatten out that line. And now my card is ready to be assembled. My next step is going to be to add a little bit of tape to the back of my white panel, and I'm going to adhere that to this black onyx panel. And this black onyx panel is cut 3 7/8 inches by 5 1/8. Now you won't have to remember all of these measurements because all of the measurements will be under the screen at StampTV, and they will also be in the description on YouTube. So whether you watch me at stamptv.com or you watch me on my YouTube channel, all of the measurements and supplies that I used are in the description. So now it's time to assemble the floral bouquet. And what I like to do is lay it all out first to make sure that I like the way it looks before I actually tack it down with tape and foam squares. So I'm laying out the flowers first, and now I'm going to assemble the leaves. Now these leaves, you might notice that these two little leaves, they look really cute together. And I wanted to make 3 separate different types of leaves so you can mix and match them and make them look all different, so not all of the leaves look exactly the same. So I'm going to continue to place these leaves and add the 2 together to create a little leaf bunch up here at the top. And then I'm going to add these final 2 leaves to the leaves that have the 3 sprigs on them. Now, I laid this out the first time and I didn't like it, so I switched them. I actually thought that they would look better going the other way, so I grabbed this one out from under that flower and tucked it under that flower and did the same with that one. So to adhere the flowers and the leaves, the first thing you want to do is just leave everything where it is and put your flowers down using some foam squares. I'm using these little 1/4 inch foam squares, but you could use one big 1/2 inch foam square if you prefer. It doesn't really matter. They all hold down really well. So I'm going to lay this one down first, And because the foam squares are closer to the center of the flower, it's not really going to affect the leaves very much. And once I get the flowers positioned, then it's easy to put the leaves back in place. So I'm going to use 3 more foam squares for the medium-sized flower. And then for that last flower, I'm only going to use 1 foam square. It is a smaller flower, and 1 foam square will hold it in place, and that will leave lots of room underneath for me to tuck those leaves underneath. And I'm kind of putting that one behind the other 2 a little bit. So now it's time to tape down the leaves. And I'm going to add a little bit of this tape. I really like this tape. This is by Thermoweb. It's their mini tape runner. And it's got a dot style adhesive, which you know I really like because it's very forgiving. If you put something down and you don't like where it is, you've got a minute or 2 to lift it back up and reposition it before it becomes permanent. So I have 1 more leaf left here. I figured you didn't need to see me tape down every one of those 9 leaves. And that one is going to go up here. So that is my finished card project. I wanted to show you another card that I made using the Passionate Pink cardstock, and I colored this one using Zig Clean Color markers for a little watercoloring look, and I used some white embossing powder, and I'm going to show you how to do this technique in an upcoming StampTV video. The new Sentimental Summer StampTV kit is now available at GinaKDesigns.com. Just click on the What's New category and you'll find it. I hope you've enjoyed today's StampTV video, and I hope you've enjoyed the product tour. Stay tuned to StampTV for more Sentimental Summer card projects, and thanks so much for watching.